We have Saturn in the sign of Aries until April 12th, 2028. 2 more years of this transit. Saturn's presence here is restructuring how we take action, how we move out in the world towards uncharted territory, things that have not been done yet. It is a wonderful disciplinary, slowing the pace so that we can get things right, so that we can change old ways of doing things. I'm going to get into what this transit means, how it's going to affect us when Saturn conjuncts Neptune as soon as it enters Aries, and the relevance of having an Aquarius solar eclipse. This is a new moon eclipse just days after Saturn moves into Aries. All of this general information will be shared in the introduction, and then watch your sign by sign to see how this Aries-Libra axis of your chart is going to show up in your life. Check your sun, moon, and rising sign. They will all have significance, and the more you can blend those, if you know all three, the more detail you will get on this transit. But if you just know your sun sign, that's going to work too, and it's priority, as always, to check your rising sign for any general readings. Hi, I'm Jen Keane from Full Cup Astrology. I do tropical Western zodiac interpretations with whole sign house systems for my general readings, but I use a blend of porphyry for personal readings. I have been trained in Hellenistic astrology, evolutionary astrology, Western, and I use a few Vedic techniques here and there. Let's get into how this will show up in a general way for everyone. Saturn in the sign of Aries is going to take on some of Aries' qualities. The part of our lives that wants to restructure, that actually likes having structure and a strong foundation, is going to be feeling more impulsive, more ready to walk out into uncharted areas of life. There could be a bit of back and forth as we feel guided to take action in ways that we have not before. We might be following dreams with Neptune here. We might be following ideals or illusions. And these are important steps forward. We can't stay in the old forever, as Saturn might like. We can't always stay in the safe zone of the known structure. We need to take steps in new directions, and this is one of those times. But it's the best of both, because we can recalibrate with what works as a solid structure and what we're working towards with our new ideal. We can't talk about Saturn in Aries without talking about the me and we element of Libra Aries axis. This is about balancing our drive for our own needs and the ability to listen to others. Depending on where each person is on this axis and spectrum, there's going to be some recalibrating to do with how we look after our own needs, how we go after our own needs, how we follow our instincts, how we have a clear sense. Even if we don't understand where things are going, we don't know the big picture, but we have a sense of the next step. We have a sense of what we want and the direction to go in. When it comes to the polarity of the Libra side of this story, depending on if you have placements in Libra and even if you don't, there's going to be recurring experiences where we need to see how much we're checking in with the other person, how much we care about another person's needs. Are we living our lives in accordance to what other people need, what other people expect of us, what it means to create harmony with other people? Does that mean a sacrifice to self and our own needs? Many situations are going to show up to allow us to exercise this perfect new middle ground for where each of us are at in our lives at the moment. Aries is a sign where we can feel frustrated when our impulses don't work out, or we could feel an urgency to what we want to get done. When we're talking about Libra and Aries, there can be a frustration or an urgency with regard to other people. And this is an opportunity to ask ourselves what it is about the other person's actions or inactions that is giving us clues to what we need. So if someone else is acting impulsively and we're in judgment, then is there a piece of us that feels like it can't follow what we need? We can't ask for what we need. Aries is going to be all about self-reflection and restructuring in some ways with Saturn our perspective of self and how to go after what it is that we want and need. There's no right or wrong answer. This is going to be a very gray zone of that harmonic balance between listening to other people's needs and giving others what they need and ourselves. And it's through the mess with Neptune here. It's through the lack of clarity and not fully seeing our way forward that we figure this out at an individual level. The Neptune-Saturn conjunction can bring a moment of dissolving an old structure. That's what Neptune does. It dissolves. It makes things less clear. It is our dream and our illusion and our fantasy forward. It's creativity. But at this moment of the conjunction, there could be something of old structure that dissolves. And this is an important part of the next 2 years with Saturn in the ability to be able to create a whole new structure for how we move forward in life. The moment of this exact conjunction happens on February 20th, 2026, depending on where you are in the world. This is a rare 36-year alignment. Saturn and Neptune have not come together in Aries since 1702. A lot of astrologers are talking about how at that time a war did break out. That doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen now, but it is that type of abrupt change. When old systems and structures need to dissolve and break down, they will happen with whatever makes sense at that time. And we can't predict exactly how this will unfold, but we can expect a new way forward. At a personal level, this means a restructuring of self. And what happens often in Aries and with Saturn involved is that we impulsively move forward, and Saturn's presence here means that in hindsight, we reflect and restructure on how we could have done that differently. This is regulating an impulse after the fact, not a premeditated change or move in the right direction. And that's not wrong. That's what this moment is calling for. It is going to be hindsight for the next couple of years where through trial and error, we figure out the best way forward. So be extra patient with ourselves and other people as we fumble and make mistakes. Aries is the sign that is compared to a toddler. It is not about learning through premeditated, proper action. It is through falling on our faces and getting up and falling on our faces and getting up that we figure out how to walk forward, how to not put our hands on something hot. We have to go through those steps. We can't skip this phase. It is a very important part of learning and integrating the physical action and our bodily experience into what the consequence is, what the repercussion is, and what we can actually create. We do have other transits like Uranus going into Gemini back again in April and other things that we are more evolved species, so we will have an ability to apply intellect. But I do want to emphasize that it's not wrong if we're taking experience without the premeditated understanding of how this is going to look. It's going to be how we're learning for the next 2 years. And this means that when we see other people taking steps in directions that look like failure, the judgment there is going to speak more to how we're still self-limiting rather than taking risks. And I'm not encouraging risky behavior by any means, but I do see that being part of the story unfolding in a way that we still have an ability to apply risk assessment, but we're going to be taking action that we might not fully see the outcome yet. Saturn in Aries is also an opportunity for us to create rules for ourselves. We are at that level of evolution in humanity right now where we do need to live by the rules of the country and the other societal structures that we live in. But we have enough self-awareness and intelligence compared to 1702 that we also can create our own guidelines for how we want to live our lives. And we're at a time right now where more people than ever are stepping into entrepreneurial roles. Saturn is our planet of work ethic, and how we conduct ourselves in a structured work way, working towards something. What are our goals? How do we get there? What are we moving towards? These are rules that we can create for ourselves. We can create discipline as an individual to move towards what we want rather than relying on external disciplinary systems to give us a step-by-step playbook. So this is an invitation to be more responsible for ourselves, more responsible for our own actions, not expecting to be able to just act however we want without considering what that means for another person, without completely neglecting our own needs, and without putting all of that emphasis on external structures. Can we make our own decisions at this point for what is good for everyone, what is good within relationships, what is going to create harmony, without needing an outer authority to come and punish us for wrongdoing? This is self-initiation of what is good, what is harmonious, what is good for others and good for self. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of stepping out on your own. Trust that you have the inner structure and authority to make decisions. And even if it doesn't work out or we can't see the final result, it's part of the process of recalibrating and learning right now. Thank you so much for hanging out for this video. If you would like a personal reading with me, check out my booking link in the description below. Thanks for chatting with me in the comments below and making these videos come alive. Thanks for subscribing and generally just hanging out. Have a wonderful rest of Saturn in Aries for the next 2 years. I look forward to talking with you about it all along the way. But for now, let's get into our sign. For the general readings of Sun, Moon, and Rising, I'm also going to get into what Saturn rules in your chart by general position. It is important to think about Saturn in Aries, but it's also important to think about the house that Saturn rules, or the houses, because by classic position, it rules Aquarius and Capricorn. I will get into that for the timestamp readings. For more information on Neptune's contribution to this journey with Saturn in Aries, I have made several Neptune videos, and I will link those in the description below as well. Hi, Taurus. Saturn is the ruler of your 9th and 10th house, and it's moving into your 12th. This is all about spirituality for you. This is your ability to either connect or dissociate from reality. This is your ability to use energy to your advantage. You have the 9th house ruler being Saturn, which is your wisdom and higher perspective at a more cognitive, functional, earthly way. And the 12th house, which is Aries, where Saturn is now, is more, it is about the ethereal. It is the energy that connects all things. It is your disconnection from earthly work and responsibility. This could be rest. When Saturn is in your 12th house, this could be more about the premeditative planning rather than the full action. You're working on the energetic field first. If this is about rest, this is about understanding the strategy and the importance of restructuring. Could be healing, but again, this is the invisible things in the 12th house that we don't see, that go on in the background, that go on without our conscious awareness. When we're talking about the ruler of your 9th and 10th house, that means that there's a reorganizing of your wisdom that could be going on behind the scenes. You could be getting a better understanding of diving into foreign places, foreign people, understanding concepts that have been different than what you've been operating with, changing the way that you are out in public, which is your 10th house. This is about your reputation, your authority. So there's something that you maybe have been missing that's coming to light, but more likely there's going to be reworking going on that is not in your conscious awareness. So think about that when conflicts arise, when you feel like disconnecting completely. It could be that for a lot of Taurians out there, when you disconnect, there's actually more going on than you realize. If you have had a tendency towards any dissociative behavior that you want to change, or you've had a disconnection to a part of your life, especially spirituality, that could come into more conscious awareness with Saturn here. And you could have situations that happen that kind of blow your mind when it comes to spiritual coincidences, or just like proof that there's an energetic, unseen realm at play that you didn't necessarily actively use in your life prior to this. Overseas places could be more important to you. There could be travel to faraway places. The 9th house and the 12th house are travel houses. You could be changing your sleep patterns. You could be figuring out new healthy ways to get more rest, get more healthy, proper sleep. With Neptune co-present, you could have a more active dream life, and this is going to be really important in restructuring your beliefs about the world and how you operate, how you work towards your goals, how you climb the ladder to success, how you go about activating your own authority with other people. On the opposite side of Aries, you have Libra in your 6th house, which is about your service to others. When Libra rules this part of your chart, your service to others is guided by a desire to create harmony with other people. Many Taurians like to be of service to others and make other people feel good, and that's part of a positive cycle that feeds in life. But if there's a cost of self, and we're talking at an energetic level here because Aries is your 12th house, you could be more aware of these imbalances during this cycle. And it doesn't mean that anything needs to fully change about the way that you serve other people, but you're just going to find more harmony so that your self-care and rest are part of this. It could be that through service to others, depending on your charts, you actually experience more of a spiritual expansion of consciousness. You start to see there's more of an energetic purpose going on behind the scenes than the simplicity of keeping harmony with others and making other people happy and creating beautiful acts of service, because that's Libra in your 6th house. It's for a desire to make the world more beautiful, more harmonious, more artistic flow, more beauty. But that can come with a balance of self and other. And that's what each of you are going to see in very different ways, depending on how your life is unfolding. But keep that in mind for the next 2 years as you might be restructuring subconscious, restructuring energy, starting to become aware of things that were in your blind spot before this transit, and how that affects your ability to serve other people and create a spiritual container for yourself where rest and growth and bringing dreams into some sort of conscious reality could be part of that story. Lots more on this topic for you, Taurus, but this is just the beginning of a fun piece of our next 2 years. I hope it's going really well for you, and I will see you next time. Hi, Gemini. You now have Saturn in your 11th house, but almost more importantly, you just finished Saturn through your 10th house, which is a position that Saturn likes to be in. It's about authority and career, and you have mastered a sense of responsibility in your public life. Who you are as a public figure, even if that public is small. This is about how you manage working towards your goals in life, achieving career success, and in some cases, authority over others, but it's really about that interconnectedness of inner authority and managing something in career and public life. or work or career or status. Saturn now in your 11th house is about the allies and the people who are here that are in the same mindset, on the same path, that have some sort of shared energetic imprint and vision for what they want to create. This could be an audience, this could be friends, communities, networks. You're restructuring now based on a new sense of status in the world. And again, this could be energetic status. Often there are physical status changes in some way when Saturn has gone through your 10th house, but not in all cases. But still the theme is now, how do you manage the connections within your community, within your audience, within your friends and acquaintances, the people you work with, the general people that are aligned with you. With Aries being the ruler of this part of your chart, there can be an high energy, fiery component that you're aligned with people often that are motivated by the same things as you, or you just like to be around people that are inspirational go-getters and they take action. Aries are fun people to be around. There is a childlike energy and essence to them, especially for Gemini. This is very similar to the information that I was giving for Neptune, but the thing with Saturn is that there's a restructuring now that's happening. Perhaps there are exciting people in your field and in your connections, but are they on the path of maturity and constructive action that you now want to be in? This is going to transform over the next 2 years, and there's a lot of time to put this into play. But keep that in mind as conflicts arise between people in your community that might feel more self-motivated, that might not feel like they actually mesh and align with you. There are going to be many opportunities through this 2-year cycle to have different types of conversations, especially for you as a Gemini. And think about that Libra quality on the other side of the 5th house. You have joy and experience play in this part of your chart, and this is about other. This is about harmonious relationships. It's about listening to other people, meeting people where they're at, sometimes to the place of overgiving. So Geminis are going to be balancing this axis of how much do you give when you have fun and in your hobbies and your creativity. Are you thinking more about what other people want, or are you thinking about what you want? And in community, you're going to have opportunities to be able to express more and more what it is that meets your needs. Saturn is the ruler of your 8th and 9th house. So when we're talking about Saturn in this part of your chart, it's inseparable from topics around psychological transformation, spiritual practice, spiritual knowledge, seeking new knowledge, integrating a bigger purpose to everything that you do with your connections. How is it that your connections and your communities are contributing to psychological transformation? You might have situations that show up that challenge your psychology or expand your subconscious in ways that you didn't before. This is one of the most important parts of groups and communities, is that they reflect who we are, and we are able to make psychological changes in order to gain healthier, stronger bonds and connections and a sense of community. Your community could be restructured around people that also have these 9th house qualities, which is seeking more knowledge, wanting to understand foreign things and foreign people in different ways. And this takes away, or this evolves the Aries quality in that it's not just about self and self-gain for the sake of one's own needs. When Saturn, the ruler of your 9th house, comes into this part of your chart, there is an emphasis on there has to be a bigger purpose. We need to have our own needs met. We need to work towards that, but it's not just without a plan. However, I do talk about Aries as not necessarily seeing the big picture, not seeing the full direction of where things are going. But because Saturn is the ruler of your 9th house, where there is a bigger purpose, there is a direction to where things are going. You don't always see it in the moment. There's a goal to seeking new connections as they need to fit into people that are intellectually stimulating for you because you're a Gemini. And perhaps there will be flavor of having people in your community and connections around you that bring foreign experiences into your life. That it could come through these people being more Aries-like, so they might want you on their side, they might want you to join their team, they might want you to live their experience, but it's really going to fit what you need because it's going to fit this 9th house theme of experiencing new things and being able to gather more information and create an expanded belief system of the world around you. You could be seeking spiritual communities that help you expand a sense of religious practice or expansion of spiritual knowledge in your life. And this could be contributing to psychological transformation in the 8th house, which is the other house that Saturn rules by ancient tradition. It is the ruler of both Aquarius and Capricorn, and I think that it's relevant in this particular journey to talk about both. So these houses all speak to a lot of energetic spiritual expansion while you are expanding your community. Saturn here can mean there's a temporary restriction to the connections that you have out in the world, but that's part of the restructuring process usually. There's a crunch that happens when you're realizing that what you really value might have fewer people initially, and then once Saturn moves on in a couple of years, you'll see much more expansion of that once again. Saturn can be the grandfatherly lessons, the slowing down of time, and this is going to apply to your connections. So your groups that you are a part of, things could slow down or become restricted so that you're paying attention to some of the reconfiguration you need to do with how you take action and other people take action within a functional system and making that functional. And it might require some psychological purging because of this connection to your 8th house. Keep that in mind with whatever shows up, whether that's just a desire to make your crowd a little smaller for a while, or questioning why things are restructuring and people are coming and going out of your life, or because it's Aries, there can be the ram energy of people butting heads. This is just about psychological transformation and having a more clear purpose and path moving forward in what matters to you for your beliefs about the world, what matters for you for expanding and experiencing new truths to constantly change your reality in meaningful and profound ways, and to have people alongside you that really match the journey that you're on, that align with your purpose, align with your beliefs, and align with the psychological transformational journey that you're on. Though Saturn can sometimes feel tough, this is a transit that's really going to pay off in the long run, as Saturn always does. But you're going to be surrounded by people that really support you, really matter to you, and that is a wonderful thing, Gemini. Thank you so much for hanging out for this video. If you would like to hear more with your personal chart, which can be radically different, my booking link is in the description below. But thanks for just being here, chatting with me in the comments, subscribing to the channel. It all means so very much and makes this process and journey really fun on my end. So thank you. Have a wonderful Saturn in Aries, and I will see you next time. Hi, Cancer. This is a 10th house transit for you. Saturn in your 10th house. This is all about career, reputation, status, your public image. This can also be career success. Whatever you're getting into right now that is career and public reputation related, your status, you could be in for the long haul. Saturn is our planet of longevity. It creates constructive change so that we have a strong foundation to move forward with for a very long time. Saturn is also the ruler of your 7th house of partnerships and your 8th house of merging financially, energetically, psychologically with other people. If you are in sales, even though this isn't 3rd house, which can sometimes be sales related, but still your ability to get into the minds and the psychology and the energy of other people, because Saturn is the ruler of your 8th house, is strong. And business partnerships. Romantic relationships. This can be marriage partners when Saturn moves into the 10th house, especially as the ruler of your 7th house of long-term committed partnerships. This could also be business. So business mergers can change your public image and your status. You could have a new business project that you want to get off the ground, and you have the fire and the gusto in Aries to get things moving forward. You're also going to have the allowance of impulse somewhat to take these steps forward, but Saturn is going to be here for the next 2 years to reality check this movement. This is something that is a blessing, but it's a hindsight blessing. So you don't want to not take action because of it or because of any hesitations. This is where we learn from stepping forward, and afterwards we recalibrate based on the results. This is a time where you might not feel like you have a ton of premeditative decision making before you take action. It depends on where Mercury is. It depends on a lot of other factors in the chart, but just Saturn in Aries means that there's movement in a new direction without premeditative planning. Saturn can slow that down somewhat, but it still needs to operate under the energy of Aries for the next 2 years, where Saturn's typical ability to slow things down and make things sometimes gruelingly slow is going to speed up. Because Saturn is the ruler of your 7th and 8th house, this could also make partnerships more fiery. You could feel more passion, more motivation, more spice in your romance life, in your marriage life, in your business partnerships. This is exciting. This is the feeling of being a kid again and having things be new. I love the beginning of the learning curve where it's uninformed optimism. That is the energy that Saturn is intoxicated by right now, is uninformed optimism. Yet Saturn is slow and steady, and we will still create this necessary structure and movement that we need to accomplish whatever it is. And for you, it's in career and public reputation. The planets here are also in square to your sign. So when you have big transits like this on the angles of your chart, which are the ascendant and descendant line, and then the 4th house and 10th house, this is a strong connection to the core of your chart. Depending on which degrees you are of a ascendant or your MC and IC, if you know those in the 4th and 10th house, those are times where you're going to feel this really heat up, and you're going to feel something that likely you have wanted for a really long time. You're going to feel like it's possible. You're going to feel like Saturn is giving you the edge, the discipline, the work ethic to move forward step by step and create something that's important to you in the foundations of your life, which could be self, partnership, home, and career. Just with Saturn alone, there are a lot of connections to important aspects of your life and your chart. This could feel like an embrace of wanting to have more structure in your life when it squares your ascendant. There could be some resistance, or it could just come from a place of feeling this impatience and this need to get things going sooner than later. Saturn has been in this sleepier energy of Pisces, this dreamy, creative and background brewing place. And now that it's in Aries and it's such a constructive planet, you could feel this real motivation to create really strong bonds that are long-lasting, marriage material, business contract material that you're excited to move forward with. You're excited to do the work. And it could come from the outside. You might not necessarily be choosing the work, but it's just part of the agreement and part of the program. That if you want these deep connections, you want psychological bonding and growth and change and restructuring, there's action that comes with that, and responsibility that at this time you are really willing to sink into and take on. That's the gift of Saturn, is that it brings an easier sense of responsibility that we don't have to fight to embrace or fight to hold on to. And we might have felt that while Saturn was in Pisces, that grasping a sense of responsibility in our lives for the past 3 years was a little bit harder than what it typically is. And for you, especially as it relates to relationships. So if you've been avoiding or not wanting the responsibility of a relationship, that could change with this transit, and it's not something that's daunting anymore. It's something you're willing to embrace. Saturn's discipline can bring more ease to our lives in that way, in that we don't have to work that hard to embrace those Saturnian qualities of, especially in Aries, of motivation and hard work. And I think it's a lovely, fiery combination to have both. I have had wonderful transits with Saturn in my personal chart. It has brought, and this is where it depends on everyone's personal experience and the Hellenistic ways that I personally look at the conditions of a planet in our birth chart. But I just want to say this because a lot of people might be fearing certain things about Saturn and Pluto and Mars when we hear general readings, and it's not always like that. Saturn is the glue that makes things work and creates something solid in our life. So however this is showing up for you, I think it's going to be great for relationships. It's going to be great for psychological transformation, for resources in the long run. Though with Saturn in the 8th house, you could have tough lessons around merging money with other people in whatever ways that shows up. But the end result then is a better functioning system for those merged assets, merged psychology, and everything else. Would love to hear from you, Cancer. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling about this transit and what's been going on in your life. It really makes these videos so much fun for me. And if you would like to process more with your personal chart, I do one-on-one Zoom calls, and my booking link is in the description below. But thank you so much for just hanging out here for this video. Have a wonderful Saturn and Aries transit in your 10th house, and I will see you next time. Hi, Leo. Saturn is moving into your 9th house. This is a complete restructure of your beliefs about the world, the ways that you incorporate information and knowledge that is different than what you already know. You're physically going on adventures. You could be going on sorts of spiritual pilgrimages where you're integrating new knowledge in ways that you haven't before. When Saturn and Neptune come together in this part of your chart, an old way of viewing the world could completely dissolve. This can happen over time, but there is a setting off spark moment that starts a trajectory of more exploring, more curiosity, more searching for higher meaning. You might have gone along until this point just accepting the ways that you already thought about things. And after this, you could find a heightened curiosity for understanding Neptunian type topics, which is energy, spirituality, things that we don't see, what is behind the veil, what's going on in your blind spots. But really just trying to put structure to energy, to the unknown with Neptune. Saturn is the ruler of your 6th house and your 7th house. By ancient astrology, Saturn was the ruler of your 7th house of Aquarius, and by modern astrology, and historically both for Capricorn in your 6th house. These areas of life become extra important in your belief systems, in your mindset, and how you understand the bigger meaning of life. Means that your daily habits could change. Your daily habits could have more meaning. You could take on changes of job, health, routines, your daily activities. And this could have to do with partnerships. So a significant person could be in your life that contributes to this change of perspective, this change of how you get things done in a day-to-day way. Is going to be influenced by this Aries part of your chart, the 9th house, which is an increased passion and desire for understanding. And it comes from real experience. So when you step into unknown experiences, you embody a new way of understanding the world. This isn't an intellectual house like Aquarius or Gemini. This is more about what you feel in your body, what you experience in life, and how that changes you from the inside out. How that changes your motivations with Saturn and Aries in your 9th house. If you've been motivated by a certain belief about the world up until now, the next 2 years could really change that. It might first come from a constriction and less of a desire to expand your mind and expand your belief systems. There might be a sense of rigidity or closing off or tightening up or slowing down the way you get things done throughout the day. Your health, you just might take that a lot more seriously. Saturn likes to constrict and slow down, and in that process, that's how we refine our actions when we're talking about Aries. That's how we refine the way we go about our day when we're talking about the ruler Saturn of your 6th house. Watch for that if you notice things feeling frustratingly slow, or you take action and then you have a consequence that you have to make adjustments for, or you don't get the outcome that you hoped for. It's all part of the plan for the next 2 years. And it's not that every action is going to be unsatisfactory. I don't want to imply that at all. It just means that there might be more of that reconfiguring. It's not going to just move forward at lightning speed from the beginning. It's going to be a bit of back and forth, and that's how you perfect it. That's how you create a real solid plan towards this 9th house work that you're trying to do. The 9th house is that exploration, Sagittarius energy. It's changing your belief systems, but this could come through higher education or being a teacher yourself. As you step into a teacher role, you might find yourself restructuring and reconfiguring the material over and over again over the next 2 years until you really have something strong. And it's not that that wasn't supposed to happen. We learn through teaching. So you could develop things differently through experience, through action with Saturn and Aries. If you have a teacher coming into your life, this could be a teacher that has a long-term impact on your beliefs about the world, on the ways that you think about spirituality and the bigger picture of life. A partner could become a significant teacher. Your own desire to transform at a psychological level, with Saturn also being the ancient ruler of Aquarius, your 8th house. And it's through this desire to psychologically transform that you lean on new beliefs, new understandings of the world, educating yourself in new ways about psychological topics, about relationships, about merging with another person. So great energy to take on any kind of training, especially academic. The more that you lean on ancient resources and texts of ancient philosophy and religion and spirituality, astrology might even be in there, to other tools of divination, you're going to be interested in this stuff more naturally. So it's not anything you have to force, but this is just a great time to dive into new things. Don't worry if you feel slowed down in that process, but you're going to have more of a desire to just try something new, try living in a foreign place, foreign country, overseas, because Neptune is here. Or if you already have been traveling and you've been leading that nomadic life, a Saturn-Neptune conjunction here could dissolve that structure in your life. So this has a bit of a Plutonian effect. Pluto is in your 7th house of partnerships in sextile to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So there's that story playing out, that these sudden reversals of whatever has been going on in these parts of your life could turn on its head and end up playing out in different ways than you've been experiencing up until now. There's so much more to talk about. I will get into it all along the way with all of my new moon and full moon readings. But thanks for hanging out for this one. I would love to hear what's playing out in your life and just how you feel about this in general. It's a lot of fun chatting with you in the comments. So thanks for making this come alive in that way. If you would like to chat more with me for a one-on-one reading, check out my booking link in the description below. But for now, thank you for being here, checking out this video. Have a wonderful Saturn and Aries in your 9th house transit, and I will see you next time. Hi, Virgo. Saturn is moving into your 8th house. This is all about psychological transformation. You're merging with another person that is of significance, importance, whether that is business or relationships of any kind, but these are long-term contract-based relationships. These are the significant partners we go through in life that help us grow and change. And when you have Saturn in your 8th house, this is about the psychological cycles that you go through. You have this restructuring for the next 2 years of Saturn here. But even though this is a very serious position for Saturn, for you, Saturn is the ruler of your 5th house and your 6th house by traditional and more modern rulerships. In traditional rulership, Saturn ruled Aquarius and Capricorn. And under the discovery of Uranus, that became the ruler for Aquarius. But we do still use both in ancient astrology. And for this particular transit, I think it's important to incorporate all possibilities. As the ruler of your 5th house, this makes this transit more fun, more creative, more playful. You are adding your own creative, unique spark to psychological transformation. This could be your baby. This could be your actual children. Your children could be going on a journey with you that helps you psychologically transform. Your shared resources with a partner can be restructured, re-strategized with the Saturn in your 8th house, and as it relates to savings for children or bank accounts for having fun and just managing the expenses of children as a merged couple and how you go about that. The reason that finances and energy go together, as well as psychological transformation on this second 8th house axis in astrology, is because, for one, money often is a psychological matter. It also creates psychological transformation as it has become something of great importance in our life as far as survival. Also, as far as beauty and pleasure and enjoying this earthly experience. So even though you are restructuring your deep, intimate bonds, your psychological process of transformation, you could feel more rigid in your beliefs about psychology or how you merge finances with another person. But this is in order to create more of a disciplined approach in whichever way this is showing up for you. That's what Saturn does. And when Saturn transits a part of our chart, it's often a discipline that comes with more ease. It just brings this energy naturally to this part of our lives. And we go through a slower, sometimes tougher process while Saturn is here, but the benefits and the gains and what we learn from it are remarkable. They last with us for the rest of our lives. And with these slower moving planets, it's also an energy that embeds at the soul level because of these experiences. We remember what we feel at a soul level. So whatever you're feeling with Saturn in this psychological part of your chart, intimate bonds, this is going to click into a very deep place in your energetic field. Because of the connection of Saturn being the ruler to your 5th and 6th house, your daily activities of the 6th house could change. Your health could become deeply connected to your psychology and the restructuring you're doing here at a psychological level. Your ability to have fun and be more creative can benefit from this 2-year cycle. And if you put all of those things together, then you have this constant transformation, maybe a slowing down even for some of you. If you have been spending a lot of time in psychological transformation, this could slow the process down so that you rework, rewrite, redo how you've been doing it. But you might also get a break You have Aries in this part of your chart, so it could be that you're going through these changes really quickly on a regular basis as a Virgo. And when Saturn comes into this area, you realize that you can slow down. You don't have to change psychologically all the time. And in fact, when we slow down and Saturn puts on the brakes to something, we can really see the workings of these changes and make it more functional as we go forward. Death and birth are covered in the 8th house, and Saturn being the ruler of your 5th house, this could have to do with the birth of children. But that's not going to be for everyone, but I just wanted to add that part. And that would certainly change your day-to-day activities with how Saturn is the ruler of your 6th house as well. You could be gaining resources or financial support or business merging support from others as it relates to a creative project or the work that you do every day with these houses lit up as well. Because Saturn is the ruler of your 5th house, it could slow down your ability to feel creatively expressive, but it's really a restructuring. So it is the ability to compress it, slow it down, so that you can look at what it is that brings you joy and fun. And maybe you're about to start something completely different now that the ruler of this 5th house is in Aries, the beginning of the zodiac. You're aligning with something that's psychologically fun for you, or that's a match now that you're at a new psychological level and place in life. As we change at a psychological level, the things that we find fun and creative and joyful also change. With Saturn in Aries, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction can dissolve an old mindset, an old psychological pattern at the initiation of this cycle. That's just one thing you might notice off the bat, and then you might be rebuilding from that place where you realize you don't have to carry this shadow, you don't have to carry this weight. You can look at the dark side of life and the shadow side of life differently. So you might restructure how you feel about things about yourself or your psychology that you resisted and criticized. This is about integration and appreciation of all parts of ourselves. This axis of Aries and Libra is about the balance between how much you assert what you really need versus how much you focus on what's going to make other people happy. And Saturn in your 8th house of Aries can have you focusing more on your psychological needs, what you need at a psychological level to have fun, to be playful, to be creative, to be healthy in the 6th house, to get your work done, to have routines that suit you. You're making this more about what matters to you for getting your needs met than making everyone else happy. And of course, there's always a happy middle, and you want to create balance on this axis. But that's an important part of this transit, is that this is Aries we're talking about. This is how you self-initiate your needs at a psychological level for creativity and for your day-to-day functioning. But Virgo, I would love to hear how this is playing out for you, or what you feel is showing up as you are going through these big shifts of focus and attention. It's so much fun having these videos come alive with the chats and the comments. So thanks for doing shout outs there if you feel called to it. And if you would like more with me, check out my one-on-one Zoom reading booking link in the description below. Would love to see you there. But have a wonderful 8th house transit. This is a great house to have your psychology feed into your whole life in a new way, and maybe in the way of helping others as well, since this is your 6th house of work. Have a wonderful transit, and I will see you next time. Hi, Libra. This transit is Saturn moving into your 7th house of partnerships. For you, more than other people, this is about how much balance you give to me and we, how much you meet the needs of another person. With Aries in your 7th house, this could be that you have had relationships where people show up and they might have a lot of needs. This is an energy that historically with Aries in your 7th house, you might attract a lot of relationships and significant partners that have a lot of needs, that act in Aries ways, that are impulsive, that know what they want and they go for it. And this is designed to reflect back to you from the opposite side of your rising sign, the ways that you can show up that you put other people's needs first. You are a Libra. It comes very naturally to you because you see the workings of how to make things harmonious and beautiful and balanced in relationships. But the thing with that is that this is a lifetime process where balance is sometimes achieved really quickly, but often it's a dance that we are constantly tipping the scales and reconfiguring what balance and harmony means. Saturn in your 7th house is going to be about reworking, restructuring how you balance with another person, how you get your needs met within partnerships, because that Aries part of your life is you. It can represent your partners, but it is still you. So you might be the one that is initiating a lot of your personal will. And you could find that a person steps into your life where you need to figure out a new balance of how you do assert your will within the rules that you work within, that you have chosen for your relationship. Saturn is rules, regulations. It slows things down, but it also makes things last the test of time. This transit can bring long-term committed partnerships into your life. And with Neptune and Saturn conjoining, as Saturn kicks off this journey in your 7th house, an old way of doing partnerships, of operating within partnerships, of structuring your partnerships could completely dissolve. It might not be instantaneous, as these are slower moving planets, but this is the initial spark of wanting to do things differently. And Saturn is here to support this restructuring over the next 2 years, however it looks for each person. Saturn is the ruler of your 4th house and your 5th house, which is lovely. Saturn is your home in your 4th house, your inner world, your family of origin, especially the structure of how your family system operated. And perhaps in ways, by ancient astrology, your 5th house, how you have fun. 5th house is also dating and romance and children, play, creativity. It is that solar spark and essence in each of us. And it's these houses that are connecting now to your 7th via Saturn, the ruler of those two places. Partnerships can have a big role in restructuring your home life, in changing how you have fun and how you date, and what romance means to you. For the majority of the beginning of this Saturn transit in your 7th house, Neptune is co-present, and we can't ignore that factor. So check out my other videos on Neptune and Aries, but it will have a spiritual dreamlike component. There will be moments where you feel like you are living a dream, you have an ideal vision for what relationships and fun and home should be. And Saturn is going to come along and question the very core of that, whether or not that actually has stability and functionality in the real world. And there will be a meeting in the middle place. We do have the ability to create both with this transit. We have a dream, we have an ideal. That's usually what dating in the initial phases of relationships hold. But when we talk about long-term committed contracts, there is a reality to that process that the day-to-day life is not always so dreamy. The reality of this world is that we need to get things done. We need to function. We need to work. We need to focus on our health. In your case, it could be children. It could be home-related decisions. How do you merge with another person? How do you create a commitment with another person and work a home life that matters to both of you, that meets both people's needs? With this transit of Saturn in your 7th house of partnerships, two people could want to take action and initiate home-related decisions. But if those decisions don't fit together, there could be some conflicts to resolve or some differences, some exercises of healthy conflict resolution where you need to hear each person's perspective, Sometimes those can get resolved. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes it's compromise. But Saturn is going to give you the tools to have those conversations, to create a merging of home and fun and play and children within your partnerships that is functional, meaningful, and has lasting power. Let's not forget Neptune, though, too, that there is a place of living your ideal life within partnerships. But there's work to do that. It doesn't just appear magically out of nowhere in this world. We put in certain strategies, certain processes, and often conflict resolution skills and tools that create this ideal partnership. With Aries being the ruler of your partnership house too, there could be more motivation and fun and inspiration in relationships. This Saturn part can be talked about in heavy ways, but Saturn is in Aries, so the motivation to work with Saturn is here. It's not all resistance, even though Saturn and Aries represent very different energetic bodies. When Saturn is in the home of Aries, it is more willing to be inspired and motivated and driven. So if you have felt any stagnation in that part of your life with relationships, that could come back. It could also slow things down. So if you have been typically really inspired and motivated first and foremost by partnerships, Saturn could come in and change that tone so that you have more motivation for self and focus on being autonomous within a bond, within merging with another person. How do you hold this fifth house energy of your fun and your creative self-expression and your individual solar light and flame alongside another? And in this energy of home as well, what makes you feel safe and secure within partnerships? These are discussions to be had. These are restructuring of relationships so that you find a sense of safety and home and security and longevity and allow yourself to have fun and all of these other core things that you want. With Saturn in your seventh house, co-present with Neptune, this could be changes around taking on too much energy from your partnerships. If you have been in that pattern, this is a time where you're going to be more aware of energy leaks and the ways that two people are not allowing that independence within the partnership. That's what creates too much frustration sometimes with how another person is acting, behaving, how their energy is, and being affected by their energy. Saturn can really help with that in an easy way over the next 2 years, in that you will slowly understand how to separate and have a more autonomous functioning energetic field in this Aries part of your chart. It's going to give you more energy, more motivation, more inspiration for your connections because you're holding these energetic boundaries that much stronger. You are one of the signs where you are being activated strongly by this transit, especially depending on where your chart starts in your rising sign or ascendant line, or other placements that you have in Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, and Aries. This is the cardinal axis. This is what makes up the angles in your birth chart, which are the horizon at the time of your birth and the lowest place in the sky that the sun traveled and the highest above the horizon. These are core markers no matter what chart system we look at in astrology. So they have a really strong emphasis on a person's life when planets move through here. It's sometimes in hindsight that we process the biggest changes. So don't worry about understanding the big picture but know that some of these energies could show up. They are purposeful. They are helping you get to the relationship constructs that you want in life that are functional and that work for you and that have this spiritual dreamy connection with Neptune. But check out more with my other Neptune videos and would love to hear how you're feeling about this transit, how life is going for you. These videos really come alive for me and are so much fun to chat with people in the comments. So thank you for that. Thanks for meeting me for one-on-one Zoom readings. If you would like a personal birth chart reading with me, check out my booking link in the description below. But have a wonderful Saturn in your 7th house of Aries transit, and I will see you next time. Hi, Scorpio. You have Saturn moving into the 6th house. This is the house of Virgo. This is your daily tasks, service to others, service to self, service to your health. This is the house of chop wood, carry water, as they say. Cleanliness is godliness. Service here is the path towards enlightenment, towards happiness, towards a spiritual practice. This is not typically spoken about as a spiritual house, but this is where the detail of everyday work manifests into the greater picture of our lives. The small details of how we take care of our body and our health and our daily routines really dictate a lot of the energy that we pour into our work, into the rest of our lives, and it is an imprint of who we are. So if we wake up in the morning and we make the bed and we meditate and we brush our teeth and we get all of our physical care in check, that does something at an energetic level. It's not just for the sake of It's not just brushing our teeth to avoid cavities, which it is. It's not just spending money on skincare so that we can be in vain and feel good about our physical appearance. There is a detail that is required in life of taking care of everything around us, inside of us, and that's the 6th house. You're coming into a whole new appreciation for these details, and Saturn here is going to be a gift in the 6th house where these habits come more naturally. Any habits that are not serving you well right now will be dissolved with Neptune, and Saturn has a strength, a motivation, a desire to initiate, a desire to be productive in Aries, really going to be like the wind in your sails. Saturn transits for me have been a huge boost in just things that I was struggling to adjust in my life for years or the entirety of my life. A Saturn transit can come along and it feels like you always had the discipline and determination to do it, especially in Aries. The key with Aries, though, like I discussed in the intro, is that it could come in bursts, and it could be that you don't immediately find the long-term path forward in your 6th house of routines, but you try different things and they're all leading to the next level of success that you're going to achieve. This will come through smaller transits throughout the year as they hit aspects of your chart. But overall, you can expect to have follow through with anything that you want to get off the ground when it comes to work routines, habits. I find when I get a boost in the 6th house, my ability to keep a clean house is so much easier. Otherwise, I can be one of those people that gets busy and leaves piles of stuff here and there until I feel like I have a moment to sit down and actually do it. But a 6th house transit, and all of a sudden I'm meticulous every minute and I'm able to just keep on top of a lot of detail much more effectively and efficiently than usual. Even though Saturn is moving into your 6th house of Aries, the 6th house will have Virgo qualities, and that's where that attention to detail, perfectionism could be a bit stronger, but it's going to lean in with ease with Saturn, and you're going to see what's useful perfectionism, what's useful service, what is a useful routine, and what needs to go. Saturn likes to keep things that are useful and that keep us on a solid foundation and structure to stand on. So you're going to be building something like this in your 6th house of health and habits and work and routine. Saturn is the ruler of your 3rd house and your 4th house. This adds elements of communication, short distance travel, neighbors, close relatives, siblings, media, marketing. 4th house is home, family, place you grew up, the ways that you were traditionally raised to think about things and do things. This can mean that your routines with writing and media, the social media you take in, could go through a bit more scrutiny where you decide certain things are healthy to feed your mind with and certain things are not. The third house is about small learnings and micro information that we take in, how we develop knowledge around certain topics. The ninth house in opposition to that is more about the big picture. So we're talking for this moment about the day-to-day things that you put out into the media and take in media, the way that you communicate with people around you. Your home life could be part of what's changing, but for most people, there will be some changes within about how you were traditionally raised to take care of your day-to-day life, your routines and health habits, and all of these sixth house topics. This part of our lives, as many, often hold innate traditional ways of doing things that we didn't think about, but we adopted from our family, and they become our default modes of operation in the world. With a new cycle like this, very likely you're going to be stepping out pretty strongly from those default modes. And that's where the trial and error could come in. It's that it hasn't been practiced before, at least not witnessed in your close family relations or maybe even online. Maybe it is through media that you start getting ideas and tidbits of new information that inspire you to change your routines and change the way you go about the day-to-day service of your day. When we're talking about Saturn, though, we are talking about tradition. We're talking about what's already been done, the rules and regulations that we live by to create something functional. And that is a functional sixth house daily activities for you. So what is it that is still functional that you want to embrace about tradition when we talk about Saturn? And what is it that could have an element of breaking through? And that's where the sextile from Uranus comes in your seventh house, but will be in your eighth house. So this is flashes of insight with your psychology and how that feeds into transformation of your daily activities as well. I talk more about this in my Neptune videos, and I will link all of those in the description below. But Neptune here could add an importance of energetic intention to your life. How do you do everything with a sense of spirit involved? It's through our energy and the way we feel about things and the meaning that we put to things that helps us get motivated to do those things. So that could be something that starts to come in stronger in your life, is that you realize that these tasks in the sixth house, we sometimes call them mundane tasks. But with Neptune here, they're not so mundane. They hold a connection of energy to all things, and this will feed many parts of your chart, especially your fifth house of creativity, because that is the ruler, because Neptune is the ruler of your fifth house. And you have been working already with Saturn and Neptune here to enhance and strengthen for many, many years your creative, most authentic expression. Now the energy of this is shifting, and it's great to have energy. It's great to have a creative, energetic expression and have more fun and really be clear on who you are at an authentic level, what your light of your soul is here to do and here to shine. But what do you do with that every day? How does that feed into your day-to-day life? How does it feed into the spirit that you have for the mundane experiences in life? The sixth house has historically been looked at as not a good house because people resist work and service, and historically also covered slavery. So there's that element of energy that we held to getting work done, that it meant something else. Now we're moving into an era of humanity where we can do that with more lightness. When there's a spiritual intention in the service that we put into our own lives for ourselves and to other people, it doesn't feel like a forced task. It doesn't feel like we're being enslaved to the meticulous details that we need to do every day, but we can be on both sides. Sometimes the repetition of the sixth house, like brushing our teeth every day and cooking for ourselves every day and going to work, these things become monotonous and boring, and we resist them or we dread them, and we want to play. We want to be out having fun. We want to be creative. This is an opportunity to merge both because you have just mastered that creative flair. that authentic creative spark inside of you. And now it can be infused into everything you do. Scorpio, let me know how this lands for you. Are you feeling this? Are you feeling ready for this? Are you already premeditating some of the intention around how you want to run your life and run your routines for 2026 and onward? It's fun hearing from you in the comments. So thank you so much for hanging out and chatting there, for being here for this video, for subscribing. It really all makes this 6th house work for me so much more fun. So thank you. If you would like a one-on-one Zoom reading with me, check out my booking link in the description below. But for now, have a wonderful Saturn and Aries transit, and I will see you next time. Hi, Sag. Saturn is moving into your 5th house of creative self-expression, your authentic, most vibrant, solar, radiant self that has fun and experiences joy. What were you like as a kid? What things did you like as a kid? How do you raise your own children? How do you connect to your own children if you have them? These are all 5th house topics, and Saturn here is coming to really traditionalize this part of your chart. A new structure, potentially, with the help of Neptune. Anything that hasn't been feeling right or authentic, or it's limiting you from having more fun, could dissolve. Saturn is also the ruler of your 2nd house and 3rd house, so these will be part of the story. This is your values, how you spend your money and your resources. Do your energy expenditures, including money, align with who you are authentically, align with creative projects, align with fun, align with how you see yourself? And the 3rd house is communication. How are you breaking the mold of traditionally the way things have been with communication, media, things you take in, information you take in from online, as well as information you put out in the world? Your conversations with other people. How does your mind work? How does your mind take in information? How does it function on a day-to-day basis? Is it chatty and overloaded? Is it worried, or is it over contemplating? As a Sagittarius, your default mission, your innate qualities as a Sag rising, or whatever part of your chart this falls into, just for the purpose of this general reading, you like the big picture. You are constantly seeking higher truths and putting knowledge together so that it has purpose and makes sense for your beliefs about the world. When we're talking about the 3rd house, we're talking more about the Gemini qualities. So how do you get there? How do you get to purpose and the bigger picture? And is the material that you're taking in on a day-to-day basis, is it feeding this bigger picture of Sagittarius truth-seeking and having meaning to everything, or meaning to many things? There's going to be a lot of recalibration over the next 2 years as Saturn travels through your 5th house and brings with it the topics of values, energy expending, possessions, how you eat, how you speak, how you use your mind. How does that filter into your creative self-expression? If you're someone who is in creative work, are you aligned with what you value? Are you spending the right amount of energy to balance time with children, to balance time with your creative projects, to balance time with play, with dating? That can be part of the 5th house. If dating is part of the story for you, this is about exploring the reality between what happens in our ideal vision of the world with Neptune here as well. You can check out more videos on the Neptune part of this transit. The start of Saturn's journey is going to be a conjunction with Neptune. And this is brewing right away. It is exact on February 20th, depending on where you are in the world. But this exact moment, it may or may not play a significant role. The energy is still a slow build and a slow release with these slower moving planets. But the point here is that Neptune will help dissolve the old structure of what you thought was fun, how you've been managing play, and especially if it's a way of connecting to fun and joy that is not real for your soul. One of the experiences that I went through with a journey like this was about dismantling anything that I was doing, like drinking or anything else that was allowing me to have a lot of fun. It was joyful, it was playful, but it wasn't as authentic to who I am as a person, or at least the connection to any sort of intoxicant, which is Neptune's presence here. It enriches certain factors into, we don't need a substance to enrich those factors or to stay connected to that part of our being. And Saturn helps the slipping away of that quite easily. So it's not something that you're going to have a lot of challenge with. Some could, depending on your personal chart. But Saturn typically comes in and makes these transitions a little easier. The discipline to do things is easier. It is as if you can dial in to what it is you want to change when it comes to fun and play and creative self-expression and dating and these fifth house topics. And Saturn will just show you the path. And in Aries, it does that with an increased motivation and spark and desire to take action. Saturn in a fire sign can really feel like that. It's just this, when I've had Mars transits, which is the ruler of Aries, the fire sign that I'm referring to, it's like this burning excitement that you just have to do something. You just have to move in that direction. So it can be very assisting energy. Consider what it is about your values and the way that you nourish your life, your body, the way that you derive pleasure from our earthly senses. That's the second house. That's classic position of Taurus, also ruled by Venus. And that's the Mother Earth playground that we are in. Also the more radical Aquarian side of what Saturn used to rule, which is your speech that is looking for really breaking the mold and a boost in that, or your cognitive processing tools. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, of your third house, and it will be moving into your seventh house of partnerships. So significant one-on-one connections might be a very big part of reworking the information that you take in, the way that you process information that comes your way, the way you speak about it, all of those things. But the tie-in is your fifth house, where Saturn is for its next 2-year journey. The bottom line is about play and authenticity, children if you have them. But this is a wonderful place to have Saturn to ultimately bring more joy to your life. However, Saturn can dampen that temporarily. And if you are picking up on that, keep in mind that it's an important part of the process of the shifting. And that's how Saturn helps. Because if something is no longer fun and it's not that great for us, it's a lot easier to let it go. That was my experience too. It was the things that I thought were fun that brought me a lot of joy, but were maybe not as authentic to my true nature. They just, all of a sudden, I didn't have a taste for them. I didn't get the fun and joy that I used to get out of them. So you could go through these waves where it feels like the things you used to find enjoyable no longer give you joy. And it's in these gaps that you find the next step. So be patient if you do feel a bit of restriction, even from outside forces, and know that it is a purposeful part of Saturn's little bit of support and step up in our foundation to get us to the next best place. And when joy comes back in these cycles, small or big, you will have more than you did before. And it's going to feel more connected to you. And it's going to also have a flair of feeling more responsible and being a kid. That's the benefit of Saturn as well, is that we're stepping into a wisdom of experience, of growth, no matter what age we are. When Saturn comes along, we have a new level of maturity to operate with. And that's what you're going to find in your fifth house. I would love to hear from you on this though, Sag, because Sagittarians are optimistic, jovial, generally pretty good at having a good time kind of sign. It's going to depend on your personal chart, but for a Sag to develop new connection to fun and joy and fifth house topics is a really fun experience for all of us to hear about. So thanks for sharing in the comments and helping these videos come alive through that. If you would like more time with me, I do one-on-one Zoom readings, and I will link my booking site for that below. But thanks for just being here, watching this video. Have a wonderful Saturn in Aries transit, and I will see you next time. Hi, Capricorn. Saturn is going into your 4th house of home and family. This is restructuring how you feel about home, how you feel about the way that you were traditionally raised to go about the world. Saturn being your ruler and your 2nd house ruler. 2nd house is Aquarius, and by Hellenistic traditional astrology, Saturn used to rule Aquarius before Uranus came along. So it has some relevance in this reading today, and it means that you are going to be reconsidering what you value around home and family, who you are as a role in creating home and family, the skills that you have to put into this. This is breaking free of operating in a traditional way at times. You could have a lot more spiritual intention in your innate default energies that you put into home and family, because Saturn being the ruler of your 1st house is your innate skills. It's what you default to. It's what you are just born ready with experience to take on. And when the ruler of your sign goes into the 4th house and it's conjoined Neptune, there's a natural dissolving of certain qualities that maybe are holding you back from taking more action, because these are happening in the sign of Aries. And Capricorn tends to be a sign that's a bit more calculated, reserved, careful. There's a system in place, and Capricorn is very happy to follow that system because they know that step by step, that's the recipe that gets you to the end result. And they don't care how long it takes. When we're talking about these planets and your ruler going into Aries, this is a fire, an instantaneous feeling that things have to happen now. We don't know the system. We don't want to follow the system. We just want results, even if we don't know what that's going to bring. That's a lot of energy for your ruler to hold. And Neptune can create this fog where you don't even really know the direction you're going in. You just feel like you need to take action and keep taking the next steps. So for a Capricorn, Saturn-ruled person, this could feel a bit messy and chaotic in your inner world and in your home life. But that is part of the recipe and the plan. That is what these planets are trying to shift and reorganize so that you can really discern and look at the details of what home and inner world mean to you. What does family and safety and security mean to you? And how do you create that in a different way than what you've been taught, or maybe what you previously thought safety was all about? A sense of security can be many different things in the world, and often external resources, and that's going to be your 2nd house as well. It's by Taurus, classic position. It is an earth sign and a sign of security, and it has some overlaps with the 4th house in that way. There's financial security, and then there's this inner feeling of safety that we have when we're surrounded by family that loves us, and we have a home and a roof over our head and all of our basic needs met, and we can retreat to this really safe little cave at the end of the day. Taurus and the 2nd house is about having the resources to enjoy all of the pleasures on earth and not worry about how you're going to take care of yourself. When you combine the energy of these 3 houses, you are recalibrating any leaning on external things for security and pleasure, because those are the things that are technically unstable. We have no control over our external environment, or very little. We have some. A lot of people feel like the way that the world is changing and the direction we're moving in, that is shaking a lot of people into feeling like external sources of security are not that secure. And whenever we go through big changes, we're left with more of a feeling that we need to feel solid and safe and secure no matter what is changing around us. No matter what fires get set, because this is Aries, we're talking about the instability of the fire element. What do you do when what you thought was safe and secure burns to the ground? I don't mean to sound so severe. It's just that I wanted to bring in that fire element to give a visual of the natural cycle in life. I heard a podcast this week talking about fire and how fire in its positive element has created so much evolution in humanity because we have fewer diseases now that we cook food and all of these other attributes like keeping us warm, and it's a wonderful tool. Yet, in the wrong manifestation, it can create irreparable damage. You are looking at that quality through the Neptune lens of energy. What is it that you want to use the fire resource for as an intentional spiritual process moving forward? And where is a lack of intention of the use of your inner world energy potentially creating an undesirable fire? This is just a few questions to consider over the next 2 years while Saturn goes through a fire sign. Saturn feels more at home when it's in the elements of water and earth. In a fire sign, an earthy planet like Saturn can feel scorched. So your security could feel scorched. What you thought you leaned on in the past for a sense of safety in the world could feel a little scorched. And this is purposeful in helping you find something even better. That's all Saturn wants to do, is help us find something more stable that fits the current world that we're in, that fits our current awareness and path of evolution. And that's why these planets keep circling around our charts and around the ways that it makes aspects is not that we're going through the same thing every time. It's that every time Saturn makes a complete journey around the zodiac, which is about 30 years, means that every 30 years we have a new level of awareness, of maturity, of functioning in the world that Saturn is here to address. So where are you now compared to 30 years ago in how you have a sense of security in the world? I'm sure it's radically different. And that's what you're stepping into now. So you can think about that too as a timeline, because it was 30 years ago that Saturn was in this part of your chart. And if you're old enough to look back on that, then that could give you some clues as to how you're about to shift this part of your world in a really positive, supportive, stable way. So Capricorn, think about what you value, how you spend your energy, the things that you do, the reactivity, the way that you take action, the way that you use your innate God-given skills in a way to create a safe, secure place in the world for yourself, inside of yourself. As a physical manifestation, that could manifest into something of home for you, but it's important to look at the inner world and your inner beliefs around how much control you have over this, how much action you can take, and what you really value with your energy. But you let me know, Capricorn. It's always so much fun to hear from you in the comments. So thank you for that, for letting me know what you're up to and how you're feeling about this transit. It's so fun to feel like it's connecting with real people here. If you would like to check out my one-on-one Zoom readings, I will link my booking site in the description below. But thanks for hanging out for this video, for subscribing, for just being here, and I will see you next time. Aquarius. Saturn is moving into your third house. This is the house of communication, close relatives, siblings, media. This is the way your mind works on a functional day-to-day level, the way that you learn and take in knowledge. And these days, that often has a lot to do with the media that you take in and what you put out in the world. As you go through your big Pluto reconstruction in your sign, communication is going to be a big part of your overall personal transformation. Saturn is your ruler by classic Hellenistic astrology, ancient astrology, before Aquarius was found. And it is the ruler of Capricorn, your 12th house, which is your subconscious. It is those things you don't see in the world. It is stuff that is hidden from your conscious awareness. It is faraway places. It is rest, retreat. It is everything that's separate from this physical, practical world, and everything that is connected at an all-one, energetic, God-like level. So this is where you can tap into a lot of meditative, intuitive knowledge and information and use that as a very practical skill in the world to take action on anything that you're working towards. This is a wonderful time to lean into more meditation, to clear your mind, and to funnel a new way of expressing information and sharing it with other people. This is a pretty cool thing for Aquarians to go through because there is a natural disconnect with the Uranian-ruled sign of Aquarius that is more about seeing things from a different perspective, seeing things from an objective realm that most people don't understand the full workings of a system the way that you do. And through that lens, many Aquarians can put out incredible, advanced, radical, never been done before material. Yet there's this feeling of being disconnected from everyone else who might operate in a way that views things differently. And communication is one of the ways that we can bridge this gap. So it looks to me like you're working on your expression and the way that you deliver media so that it reaches the masses. That's a 12th house action as well. It's how do you connect to all things and through the practical day-to-day functions of a earthly planet like Saturn. It's taking traditional past ways of doing things, systems that might feel archaic, but using an old system to bring in new information and make it more deliverable. I talked about this a lot in the Neptune videos. Neptune is going to be co-present and conjoined Saturn on February 20th by exact date, but this is going to be a whole year journey through different levels of intensity. So in February, you might feel a dissolving of some of these old ways of operating in communication, and you might feel more confusion as to how to move forward. You might not have a sense of clarity of what is happening or what's going on. There can be a restriction around your ability to communicate. You might self-impose restriction on certain types of media and information that you take in as you go through this mental development that's really strengthening this capacity. And as a result, it's going to help you connect to more people. There's going to be a fire and a tenacity and an excitement around this, even though Saturn and Neptune can feel like the antidotes to that Aries excitement and initiation, but they're going to be infused with that quality. So you're going to feel more motivated to use some of these more rigid, traditional expressions of Saturn, which could feel atypical to some Aquarians out there. You might even resist some of these traditional ways of operating because they don't fit with your perspective. They don't fit with this broader image of seeing the whole system at play and understanding what humans need at a bigger scale or at a more future forward vision. However, the assistance here with Saturn and some of the more traditional applications of the way things have been done can really help you get the core foundational work to whatever you're doing and help you then express your Uranian Aquarian qualities at their best, which is that radical, unique vision for the future that you hold. This is a wonderful opportunity to spend more time resting, meditating. You'll be shown ways that you might be dissociating in unhealthy ways in this spectrum. And it's not, some of those ways are important and some of those ways are healthy and some of those ways are helping you get to where you want. But if there are modes that are not, then that will be exaggerated temporarily, so that you see where you want to make corrections. And the great thing about this transit is you will feel really motivated with Saturn and Aries to make any communication changes that you want to. A wonderful time to dive into new information that changes the way that you think, changes the way you meditate, changes the way you write and speak. If you want to learn new languages, if you really want to learn anything at all, this is like a brain workout. This is putting together new ways to use your brain in a day-to-day way that add more purpose, more function, and help you get more done out of that part of your life. But you let me know, Aquarius. I would love to hear how this is showing up for you or what you've been transitioning into. We did have a bit of Saturn in Aries at the beginning of 2025. So you've had a taste, but this is really the full 2-year solid transit that is going to reshape how you think and how you function at a mental level and how much intuition you use, how spiritually guided you are in some of that effort. So yeah, love to hear from you. Thanks for checking out this video. If you would like more time with me, my one-on-one Zoom reading booking link is in the description below. But have a wonderful Saturn in Aries transit, and I will see you next time. Hi Pisces. This is Saturn in your second house of Aries transit, and the second house is all about your resources, your assets, how you spend your energy, how you spend your money, how you spend your time. Where does your energy go? How do you nourish your own energy with food and connecting to the earth and your sense of security? That's what Taurus is all about, the classic position of the second house. Saturn here is a disciplinary lens to look at where there are energy leaks, where you can dial this in and spend money on the things that really matter to you, how you can gain more resource. Saturn-Neptune conjunction here on February 20th can dissolve an old way of going about your energy management, the way that you've structured your finances. If you're dealing with dissolving qualities in this part of your life, it is for a strong rebuild. It is so that you can see where it is that you need to put more energy in some places and less energy in others. You could just generally feel more strict and reserved and following strict protocols with your assets. It can come very naturally with Saturn, and this is one of the gifts, is that when we lean into that Saturn energy, and especially in Aries, there's a spark of motivation and a need to take action, and you have the assistance of the grandfather disciplinary planet of Saturn to get this job done. For 2 whole years, this transit happened 30 years ago in your life. If you have been around long enough to experience a transit of Saturn in Aries before, you would have gone through something similar, but 30 years down the road, it's going to look completely different. You are a different person. Your assets are probably different. The way that you think about how much energy you have is certainly different because every 30 years, our energy levels change. Saturn is also the ruler of your 11th house and your 12th house by traditional rulerships. Before we discovered Uranus, Saturn ruled Aquarius, which is your 12th house, and the 12th house is a Pisces house. So this is about your spiritual connection to all things, and you have just been through this with Saturn in your sign. So there's more of this story unfolding, but you have already embodied the innate qualities when Saturn was in your sign to add more structure to your life. More structure than Pisces have known before, and you are not starting from scratch. You're starting with this strong foundation of Saturn having just traveled through your first sign and given you the skill. So when it comes to remodeling your values and your assets, especially as it connects to the people you spend your time with, the communities you're a part of, the amount of rest that you get, the amount of creativity and dissociation and illusion and fantasy and meditation that you go into on any kind of spectrum. Saturn is here to reorganize how you manage the energy that you put into these parts of your life. Certain communities can be draining and not healthy. And as you have gone through a certain recalibration with Saturn and your ruler Neptune in your sign for the last 3 years with Saturn, for the last 14 years with Neptune, you are a different person. And the people around you are going to change as a result of that. Your tendencies for 12th house matters, like connecting to God and divine and unseen realms, or rest and illusion and dissociation, those are recalibrating. It doesn't have to be a big thing either. It can be small changes that add up to a lot at the end of these bigger cycles that I'm referring to. So for the next 2 years, expect to feel more discerning around your friends and communities and networks. And if there's a temporary restriction because of a motivation for change and a desire to take action with Saturn, the ruler of this 11th house, in your second house of Aries, which is all about action, then go with it. But know that there's going to be this dance as Saturn restricts and it cleans things up. The restructuring process of community can feel like you're restricting your connections with people at some parts, and that's going to be okay. That's going to be a normal part of change. And I want to say that so that you can keep that in mind with some of the more challenging qualities that Saturn can sometimes bring, is that restriction of Saturn feels limiting. It feels like we're living inside of a box that we have created, that we have a very small world for a little while. And it's an important place where we realize what it is that really matters. We realize with Saturn and Aries what action really matters and what action we can hold back and conserve energy when we're talking about the second house, or conserve resources. Sometimes action means spending money. And where is it that you want to put that energy in part of your life? You can feel like your assets and possessions go through a restructuring. You might feel like you want to hold on to more as an emotional connection to it with Neptune, or there's a dissolving of some of your assets and shifting what really matters in a way that you want everything you own and possessions to be functional when Saturn's here. Pisces, for this transit, think about what it is that really matters to you at a level of values, what makes you feel secure and enjoy pleasure in the world, what makes you feel financially secure, which connections and communities and allies in your life are here to support this new journey, and where you need to take healthy rest, where you need to take a break, where meditation and intuition is supporting you, and in these practical matters specifically. So with Pisces, I see this as a general archetype where intuition is strong in a creative capacity and ability to dream things into reality, which is still going to hold a lot of truth. But where is it that you can use this intuition to make very practical decisions when Saturn is in your second house? You let me know, Pisces. How are you feeling about some of the shifts in your life, this journey that we're going on as Neptune and Saturn move from your sign into Aries? You are going to feel those details most, and it's so helpful for everyone to hear. So thank you for sharing in the comments, chatting with me there. Thanks for reaching out for Zoom calls. So much fun to connect with you over video. If you would like to do that, check out my booking link in the description. But thanks for just being here and checking out this video. Have a wonderful Saturn and Aries transit, and I will see you next time. Hi, Aries. This is your big transit. 2 whole years of Saturn in your sign coming up, and the big Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th. This is about you. This is about yourself. How you take action, how you have the stamina to take action and follow through to create what it is that you're moving towards. This is a wonderful energy for Aries. It might not always feel that way, because when Saturn is tightening and restricting what has been in order for change, or showing us where we need to create more discipline and action in a steady, slow pace, it's contradictory to Aries energy. You want things quick, you want things fast, you want sudden results, but the sudden results can sometimes be just showing us more of where our limitations are. So that's where Saturn becomes a good thing, because you're starting to see where your limitations are based on false or not the right action. And Saturn can help you see what the right action is, so that you have fewer limitations showing up as results and just more continuous flow. Neptune can bring that quality too. Neptune is eternal and infinite and connects energy of all things. Some of you will have more spiritual intention and things that you're adding to your day-to-day Saturn getting things done quality. What's the energy behind your discipline? What you get done, your foundation, your traditional ways of doing things. Aries doesn't necessarily lean on tradition. It's going to depend on your personal charts, how traditional you seem to be acting or non. It's more about just following the desire, following the urges, following the passion. So when passion meets traditional methods of doing things, that's also an opportunity for getting more longevity and results in whatever it is you're working towards. I have made a few Neptune videos and those will all be linked below. So if you want more of the Neptune component, check those out. The Saturn stuff is what I'm going to focus on here. And Saturn is also the ruler of your 10th house and your 11th house. When the ruler of the 10th house and the 11th house lands in your sign, you are focused more on your authority, your public image, career, reputation, how others see you, what you do in the world, as well as your audience, the people that are watching you, your allies, your communities, your friends, your people that are here to support you. What are some of the intentions around the Aquarian 11th house causes, like having shared humanitarian goals? What are the things that you want to create for humanity that are shared with like-minded people? And how are you going to stand up for that with Saturn being the ruler of your 10th house? How are you going to create an authority and presence around what you're working towards, the people you're doing it with, and what matters to you, and really using your innate skills, because that's your first house of Aries, using those traditional innate skills to filter into your public presence, how and what authority means to you, how it comes across, and how you connect with others. Really strong places to have this transit for Aries. And it's going to have you being seen in a really great light. It's going to have people feel like they can count on you. They can lean on you, that you have an innate authority for this next 2 years with Saturn here. And you might feel like you're working with it in new ways or for the first time. So depending on how old you are, if you remember the presence of Saturn in Aries 30 years ago, what did that feel like? What type of new, wise, purposeful person were you stepping into at that time? And this is going to be yet another evolution and evolved version of what wisdom have you gained in the past 30 years, and how are you applying Saturnian 10th house, public figure, inner authority qualities now that you're this age versus 30 years ago? That will be different. For those of you who are making career changes, this could be a career that you're stepping into that feels more you, that you feel passionate about, that aligns with your innate skills. And that's a lovely thing. So if you've been waiting for the right career, Saturn in your sign, the ruler of your 10th and 11th house, could help you click into leadership roles where by default you have what it takes. You have the innate skills to share and lead with, and maybe you've been working on that for the last 30 years since the last Saturn and Aries cycle. With 11th house topics, how does this relate to the strategies you have to connect with others? You could be restructuring how you operate with your community and your friends, and this ultimately will lead to more support. During the time of Saturn changes, though, like I said, it can restrict and tighten first. So be patient with any ways that that shows up, and just know that that's a part of reconfiguring how you operate with your communities and like-minded people, how you walk through the world with people that are on the same path as you and have the same goals as you in life, how you exchange inner authority with others. That's the thing with healthy ways of authority with ourselves and others is that each time we reach a new level, we have a new way of interconnectedness. There's a gentleness that can come across with healthy authority. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, which is a feminine yin sign. So there's a lot of misconceptions sometimes, and myself included, in the beginning where I kept thinking about Capricorn as a more masculine energy, but healthy authority comes from a yin quality. So there's a quality of integrating and taking in and not just assertion, which is more of the yang quality, which is Aries. Each Aries person will have a blend of yin and yang archetypes in their charts. So it's not that you're polarized in one or the other just because you're an Aries. But for everyone, this will be a new level of merging that yin and yang energy within yourself in how you operate on a day-to-day basis, how you listen and take in the energy around you with other people, and how that turns into an asset of action when everyone is working on a similar thing. And that's the 11th house connection with you, is that this is about you with Saturn in your sign. But when Saturn is the ruler by Hellenistic ancient astrology of your 11th house, this is the force that can occur when you're walking with others. It's like a bird or geese formation in the sky. It's a lot easier to go a long distance when you have the right collaborations and connections. And Saturn wants you to go the distance. Saturn wants you to go the distance with more ease. So it's going to show you where you're flapping too hard with your wings and going on your own, and how you can get into a pattern of flight that is going to make this process a lot easier. So even though this is very much about you, this is about how you are within a system with other people and how you make this work for you in the long run. I would love to hear from Aries out there over and over and over again, because we are going to be talking about your sign so much over the next 2 years with Saturn, over the next 14 years with Neptune. It's wildly helpful to have an Aries perspective from that archetype of what's going on in your world and just generally how you're feeling about things. So thank you for interacting in the comments there. Thank you for reaching out for Zoom calls. It's so much fun to meet faces and have that one-on-one connection. If you are interested in that, my booking link is in the description below. And for now, thanks for just hanging out here and watching this video. Have a wonderful transit with Saturn and Neptune in your sign, and I will see you next time.